President, I rise to take note of the answer from Senator Birmingham to my question earlier today in relation to the Prime Minister's announcement at the G7 summit some 2 days ago that Australia would be joining the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People. Now, this particular coalition of some 70 countries or 60 countries is a pledge to protect 30% of the world's land, domestic land, and 30% of the world's oceans. And of course, what we have from this announcement is more trickery from this government, more game playing from this government. Well, on one hand, they have committed to this 30% by 2030 by saying it is a combined 30% together, protecting the land and protecting the sea. When, of course, that is not what this coalition of countries is calling for in the lead-up to the biodiversity conference in China in a couple of months' time. What they're asking for, of course, is for countries to be fully committed to protecting at least 30% of land plus at least 30% of their oceans from environmental devastation and destruction. So just like we saw this government time after time after time lie, mislead, be tricky over Australia's commitments to reaching their Paris targets by counting Kyoto carryover credits, we see again tricky accounting being used right here under this process. And for what purpose, Mr. President? Is it purely so cynical that this government knows that the people of Australia want our environment protected, so they say that they're going to do something while at the very same time doing nothing? In fact, Mr. President, going backwards. And the reason I say this is because while the Prime Minister has been standing up at the G7 saying that Australia commits to protecting our environment, we have right here in this parliament this week the government introducing and pushing through laws that would weaken our environmental protection to pave the way for easier approvals for new mines and big development. And you don't have to take my word for it, Mr. President, as to what is going on here. The Prime Minister himself declared that this bill that amends Australia's environment laws is precisely for the resources sector. It's for keeping the mining companies happy. The Prime Minister has said that himself. It has nothing to do with strengthening our environmental protection laws, nothing to do in helping halt the extinction crisis that not just Australia faces, but the world faces. And when it comes to the issue of extinction, Mr. President, Australia, sadly, rates the worst in the world. Can you believe that? Isn't it just shocking that Australia has lost more native species than anywhere else in the world? We're a world leader in extinction, a shameful record and something that we need to start turning around and halting, which is why, under this particular coalition of countries, they're also asking for signatories to commit to an extinction target, to halt the destruction of our wildlife, to stop the disappearance of our native species. But of course, Mr. President, the Prime Minister didn't sign up to that particular pledge. The Prime Minister has said one thing at the G7, but here in Canberra, at the very same time, his government is pushing through laws that do nothing to help the environment, but do everything to make it easier for big mining corporations and big greedy developers to keep destroying wildlife habitat, to keep destroying Australia's precious environment. Saying one thing at the G7 and another thing here in the nation's capital. And Australians are sick and tired of this game playing and trickery of this Prime Minister. And here today, we've called it out, and the minister, when I asked the question, could not give a simple, straight answer.